Good day, everyone, and welcome to our English class. Today, we will be discussing a very interesting topic. But before that, allow me to ask you this question. Do you agree that the best view comes after the hardest climb? Why or why not? Well, it is being said that there are times that we are afraid of being challenged because we are thinking that we might fail or maybe we can't survive. Sometimes we tend to hide and avoid hardships just to feel comfortable in any ways. However, the reality always tells us that it is impossible for us to escape trouble and we must face it. Good thing about being challenged is the aftermath of it, the better version of you. And so, a lot may say that the best way out of difficulty is through it, and we must trust the process. As an intelligent and creative individual, always remember that in writing fiction, the chaos that our protagonist will be facing in the story will surely add spice to its plot. And as a writer, it is us who will lead our characters on that path. So, let us start. Let's talk about the conflict, the irony, the theme, the techniques and devices that we are used in writing fiction. Always remember that what you choose to pit your characters against will have a significant effect on what kind of story you will tell. So that's fine if you will let your characters be on a very challenging situation or be in a very beautiful situation, because if you think that will make your story more interesting, more colorful, so be it. Many stories contain multiple types of conflict, but there is usually one that is the main focus. First, let us talk about the conflict that our characters might experience in our story. First one will be the character versus self. So this is an internal conflict, meaning that the opposition the character faces is coming from within. This may entail a struggle to discern what the moral or right choice is, or it may also encompass mental health struggles. All other types of conflict are external, meaning that the character comes against an outside force that creates the conflict. So in a nutshell, the character versus self is the only internal conflict that we could give to our character. Second one will be the character versus character, one of the common conflict that we could give or we could write. So this is a common type of conflict in which one character's needs or wants are at odds with another's. A character conflict can be depicted as a straightforward fist fight, or could be intricate and nuanced as ongoing struggle for a power, struggle for recognition, struggle for money, and the likes. So it's character versus character. Next would be the character versus nature. In a nature conflict, a character is set in opposition to nature. This can mean the weather, the wilderness, or either a natural disaster. Okay, well, me personally, I really want to watch a movie that has the character versus nature type of a conflict, just like the 2012, the Pandora, and anything that has that kind of a conflict. Okay, the one that has the tsunamis, the thunderstorms, the wilderness, and the likes. So basically, character versus nature, it is just nature that is giving conflict to our protagonist. Character versus supernatural. Pitting characters against phenomena like ghosts, gods, or monsters raises the stakes of a conflict by creating an unequal playing field. Supernatural conflict also covers characters like Harry Potter, or who have a fate or destiny and struggle to accept the sacrifices that come along with. So supernatural or character versus supernatural conflict, at first, the protagonist is indeed more powerful against the protagonist, so there is no balance of power. But then again, the ending of it will always depend on the author's perspective. Next one would be the character versus technology. In this case, a character is in conflict with some kind of technology. Think of the tale of John Henry, the African American folk hero. In American folklore, Henry was a former slave who worked as steel driver on the rail line. To prove his superiority over new technology, he raced a steam-powered rock drilling machine and won. However, he suffered a heart attack after winning the race. So it's just basically your character against the modernization, against the technology. Next one will be the character versus society. It is a conflict or an external conflict that occurs in literature when the protagonist is placed in opposition with society, the government, or cultural tradition, or it could be a suicidal norm of some kind. Characters may be motivated to take action against the society, listen, this is very important, by a need to survive, a moral sense of right and wrong, or a desire for happiness, freedom, justice, or love. So those things are the driving forces that will let our character be against the society. Right after talking about the conflict, let's proceed to the irony. I know that you have heard this term already, but irony means it is a contrast or incongruity between expectations for a situation and what is reality. Also, this can be a difference between the surface meaning of something that is said and the underlying meaning. And it can also be difference between what might happen or what might be expected to happen and what actually occurs. And also, you need to remember that irony is different from sarcasm, all right? So I would like to give you an example of an irony. For example, I will say the similes as soft as sandpaper. Basically, the term soft is not related to sandpaper or directly opposite to a sandpaper, because we know that a sandpaper is not that soft. It is somehow rough, right? So, or I may say that as warm as ice. Okay, we know that an ice is not that warm. Okay, but then again, I use those similes in order for me to express an ironic statement. Okay, so irony has three types or three common types. The first one will be the verbal irony. Takes place when the speaker says something in sharp contrast to his or her actual meaning. Again, verbal irony takes place when the speaker says something. So that the speaker said something or directly uttered the words. The words were verbally uttered. Okay, in contrast or in contrary to his or her actual meaning, just like what I mentioned a while back. If I'm going to say those ironies, apparently I have done verbal irony. Or when I say that, I really love this job even though I am having or I fall short of sleep. Okay, so that's verbal irony. When you directly uttered those words or you delivered verbally those words. After the verbal irony would be the dramatic irony. This one is kind of funny. It occurs when the audience has more information than one or more characters in a work of literature. This literary device originated in Greek tragedy and often leads to tragic outcomes. For example, in Shakespeare's Othello, the audience is aware that Othello's best friend Iago is villainous and attempting to bring Othello down. The audience is also aware that Desdemona has been faithful, though Othello doesn't know this. The audience can foresee the imminent disaster. So apparently, if you are the audience of a certain movie or a certain play or drama, we know who is the bad guy and who is the good guy, right? So it's kind of ironic because the characters itself in that story are not aware about it. It's like, for example, with the Romeo and Juliet, the ending of it. We all know that one of them one of them was not that dead or wasn't dead at all, right? But then again, both of them drank the poison and both of them died. Okay, so dramatic irony. That's why sometimes our mother will suddenly shout to the protagonist of a certain telenovela because they know, okay, what will happen to that character, and ironically, that character that character doesn't know it. Okay, so again, that is dramatic irony. Next one will be the situational irony. Consists of a situation in which the outcome is different from what is expected. There are contradictions and contrasts present in cases of situational irony. For example, in the Wonderful Wizard of Oz, the citizens of the Emerald City assume that Oz is great and all-powerful. Yet, the man behind the curtain is revealed to be an old man with no special powers. So situational irony, like we are expecting a certain situation to be like this, but then again, it's not, that is not what is that is not happening in reality. Like when I say that the police station got robbed, like it's kind of ironic, okay, that the police station got robbed. How come that the police station got robbed when there are a lot of police there? Or when I say that when I say that, or when I saw a certain warning in a certain open space, for example, no parking, but then again there are a lot of cars being parked on that place. So it's situational irony. Okay, so it's the situation being that ironic. So we have two more ironies. First one is the historical irony, relates to real events that had happened, when seen in retrospect, had vastly different outcomes than predicted at the time. So historical irony. For example, Chinese alchemists discovered gunpowder when looking for a way to create immortality. Imagine their very purpose is to discover things that would help to make your life longer. But then again, they invented gunpowder, and nowadays that discovery was being used in an opposite way, right? Like there are a lot of people being killed because of gun. Okay, next one will be the Socratic irony. The philosopher Socrates would pretend to be ignorant about the topic under debate to draw out the nonsensical arguments of his opponent. Sometimes we are doing this, like we are playing dumb whenever we are arguing with someone that we know, someone who doesn't know anything about the topic. And for example, your mother, okay, knows that you went outside to see your boyfriend, but you think your mother didn't know that, and your mother will just keep on asking you things even though he already know the answer. So that's Socratic irony. You just keep on asking question even though you already know the answer from that person. Okay? And then after the irony, let's talk about the theme. In works of fiction, a theme is the central idea or ideas explored in the story. A literary theme might be the subject matter or present itself as a message within the larger story. The possible themes that literature can focus on are numerous. So there are a lot of possible themes that we could give in our story. So these are the examples of some common themes. We have all about love, coming of age, rebirth, redemption, injustice, oppression, revenge, courage, survival, resilience, power, corruption, betrayal, disillusionment, family, trust. Also, war versus peace, good versus evil, individual versus society, life versus death, reality versus illusion, tradition versus change, humans versus nature, humans versus technology. So those are the things that we need to consider. Those are the conflict, the ironies, the themes, the some sort of techniques and literary devices enable for us to make our story or make our output to be more creative and interesting. So if you do have questions or clarifications, you know where to contact me, and see you next week.
That will be all for today, and thank you so much for listening. I hope that you have learned new concepts and acquired new skills that you may use in your daily lives. Always remember that there is fun in learning.